In life, we are taught that things move in a linear progression. Everything has a start, a middle, and an end. And for most things, this is true, like this talk, for example, but more often than not, I guarantee you the things in life we think move forward actually move in all kinds of directions. Today, I'm going to teach you the art of navigating life, no matter what direction it takes you, even in its most challenging moments. This idea is a little abstract, so let me try and paint you a better picture. My name is Ryan. I'm a senior at Brandeis, and in case you couldn't tell by my apron, I am an artist. My story begins with what felt like an ending. Up until the second grade, I had had what one might call a normal childhood. But when I was 7, my world turned upside down. My mom had been diagnosed with stage 4 cholangiocarcinoma, otherwise known as bile duct cancer, which is a rare form of cancer that is not only very hard to catch, it is very hard to treat. For over a year, my mom fiercely battled with cancer, but when I was 9 years old, she sadly passed away. No amount of time with my mom would have ever been enough, and when she died, it felt like I was drowning in my grief. For years I grieved and grieved and grieved. Grief is defined as a natural response to loss and is outlined by 5 stages. First is denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and finally acceptance. When we grieve, we expect to move through these stages one at a time, but this was not the case for me. It felt like I was moving through them all at once. For years, I felt that I was bad at grief, which at face value sounds ridiculous. I mean, how can one be quote unquote bad at grief? Well, my grief never moved step by step through the different stages. It moved in all sorts of directions, sometimes even backwards, with varying levels of intensity. It got to a point where I almost felt guilty about my grief. Every time I thought I'd made progress in dealing with it, my feelings would bubble up and I'd be sent spiraling. I thought I was going backwards. So the question remains, can one be bad at grief? I am a firm believer in that your feelings are uncontrollable, no matter what the situation is. The only thing we can control is our reaction and the ways in which we deal with them. People can and will always be telling you how you should or should not feel. But in all cases, this is never true. Feelings are messy, and in this case, my feelings felt like one big mess. But then I realized I had seen this mess before. I am an artist, but more specifically, I am a painter. My work is evocative, expressive, and the texture I create on the canvas reflects the rawness of my emotions. Therefore, it is my sole duty in life to be a mess. It is simply in the job description. But I'm not just a mess, I'm the mess. I'm the messiest painter in my class, and this apron is not only a uniform, it is also a shield. Every day before class, I have to change into a whole new set of clothes. I'm telling you, in the studio, the paint is everywhere. Much like grief, the process of painting has outline steps, or at least the beginning it does. But what happens when we start applying paint to the canvas? I'm constantly going back and forth through different elements of my pieces, constantly fixing, adjusting, making mistakes that send me backwards. They may be fixed and set the progress back on course, or it completely changes. The point is, no painter ever steps away from a painting and it looks exactly like what they pictured in their mind. We are not printers, but in a constant state of work in progress. Finding outlets for grief is crucial in learning how to translate the journey through it. It might sound like I'm very well spoken now, but the truth is, art is my primary form of communication. It's what comes most naturally to me. Circling back to the image I showed before, this is a portrait of my mother and I. While it may seem like it's moving forward in process, I'm actually changing so much as I go. I'm constantly reworking things. If you take a look, even just at the hands and how they changed over time, it is shocking to see how my emotions are brought up right to the surface. This is one of the reasons I love painting so much. Emotions are physical. There's a specific way in which they sit in your body. For me, art is like a translation of that. I'm turning these physical feelings into something tangible, something you can clearly see. It's as if I'm in a constant state of releasing all these different emotions. Through this, art can become a means of reframing grief. There's a reward as you make art, and it makes you feel good about yourself. Through the positive reinforcement of creation, it becomes more difficult to look at the process of grieving as negative when you're working through it with art. Art and grief go hand in hand. When I am painting, and I mean in it, like really in it, like the music fades into the background like white noise, and even my face is getting covered. There's this very real material I'm working with. I like to call this state the zone. In the zone, I don't know how I got there. I don't know how it'll end, or I just don't even occur to think like, it doesn't even occur to me to think like that. I'm just in it. My hand to brush to canvas turns into a translation of what's going on in my brain, and the paint and my subconscious will literally take over, and the painting will usually transform into something totally different. A new direction is born from my brushstrokes, deviating completely from the original concept. This is another painting I'm working on. It is 6 feet tall and 5 feet wide, and much like grief, there's a lot going on. There's a bunch of symbolic elements, but today I only want to focus on 3: the setting, the figures, and the flame. The painting, while set in mostly darkness, is set in my studio, and the figures in the foreground are me and my younger self. It is meant to represent my life before and after experiencing loss, and how my studio has become a source of clarity in finding my journey. As you can see, this is an emotional topic for me. Talking about my mom, while it brings me great joy, can also bring great sadness. But with the illumination of the small flame, I want to recognize that there is light in the darkness. These paintings that I make show all the work that I've put in, and they are beautiful and a way to look back on my journey. But there is a science behind this. Different mediums are said to create different ways in which we release our emotions. One study by Tamar Peso-Aviv, Dr. Daphna Regev, and Dr. Joseph Gutman assessed the effects of different art mediums on psychological components of 7 to 9-year-old children. While this study has many limitations, such as the fact that it was done with children versus adults, I believe that the results are transferable. Of the 3 mediums tested, I found the results from the use of pencils versus paints to be the most interesting. On the left, we have one of my drawings in pencil, and on the right is one of my paintings. They're meant to represent the 2 mediums that were studied, which show the different effects of different ways you can express emotions. Basically, the pencils were said to facilitate linear expression, while the paint was described as an uncontrollable medium that releases a variety of different emotions. Of the most studied were anger, self-esteem, anxiety, and self-control. The paints were shown as having a negative impact, but I thought this was a good thing. Why? When I grieve, the paint is able to let out my negative emotions surrounding grief. In order to deal with them, I have to feel them and let them out through the paint. Grief is not meant to feel like a clean-cut experience that can be outlined like pencil. It is messy, and you won't always like the emotions that come out of it. Like me, you may believe that grief brings out the worst sides in you. This is all part of the continuous process of trying to heal yourself. When we are grieving, it can be very difficult. And sometimes we believe that we get pigeonholed into different ways. Art is not the only way that we can deal with grief. There are many different things that we can use as reinforcement for handling our loss. Some might find reinforcement through other methods of creation, such as baking or writing. Some may prefer to sweat out the loss through working out or dancing. Others may find relief through spoken word, such as praying or just talking with a therapist or even singing. The options are limitless. The one thing I urge you to do, however, is find something with a physicality to it. Something to serve as a means to translate your journey, something tangible, something you can work through it with. My grief will always be different from your grief, or anyone's grief. This is what I do to survive the spiral. If you were to walk away from this talk and only remember 3 of the things I have said, I want you to remember this. Number 1, people may say it gets better, and this may be true for you, but it's okay if it's not. Number 2, grief is not about the end result, it is about the process. And number 3, the discomfort of grief is not necessarily a bad thing, but it can feel better when you're working through it with something tangible. Grief is a beautiful thing. It is a way of remembering how much you love someone, even after they're gone. I loved my mom so much, and there is not a day that goes by that I don't miss her. But I get to see my love for her on the canvas when I'm painting. I get to see her smile again, and it makes it all worth it. Thank you so much.